Bizarre stories from the subscribers. Ha 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 ha. I was sitting in my chair, focused on the math test. The silence in the room was so heavy that I could hear the sound of my own breathing. Suddenly, I felt a touch on my shoulder, a light touch, almost imperceptible but enough to make me shudder. Jonas, help me out, man. The voice was low, almost a whisper. Jonas, help me.
Out, man.
But I recognized it right away. It was Lucas, the guy who always sat behind me. But something was wrong. Lucas wasn't in our class anymore. He had disappeared a few weeks ago, and nobody knew where he was. And now he showed up at the math test. The teacher had said he had transferred from the school. Lucas, what the hell are you doing here? My heart started racing. My hands began to shake.
I need the answer to question 3, Jonas. Please give me
Help. His voice was different. I felt a chill run down my spine. I couldn't turn around. If the teacher saw me talking, I'd be screwed. Besides, I wasn't going to risk getting caught cheating. I wasn't doing very well that term, and I had to pass. I can't. Lucas.
Sorry.
Man, Jonas.
Please, man. I need to get through. I don't want to stay here.
Here forever. That sentence gave me chills. What did he mean by staying here forever? Before I could think it over, the bell rang, announcing the end of the test. I sighed in relief and began gathering my things.
Jonas, don't leave me here, man.
Lucas's voice sounded way too desperate, man, but still low, like only I could hear it. My heart raced and I finally turned around. Lucas's chair was empty. No one was sitting there, man. I looked around, but none of my classmates seemed to have noticed anything different. There, the teacher was collecting the tests, and the other students were talking to each other, completely unaware. I left the classroom as quickly as I could. Without looking back in the hallway, I took a deep breath. I needed some fresh air, man, trying to convince myself that it was all just my imagination, right? What if I was going crazy? Maybe the stress from the test made me hear things. The next day, I decided to ask about Lucas. I got to the classroom and approached a group of classmates. Hey, does anyone know about Lucas? He's been missing for a while, right? They looked at each other, kind of confused, and said, Lucas? Who's Lucas? One asked. He vanished 2 weeks ago. They laughed. Didn't you guys see him behind me taking the test? No, Jonas, there was no one sitting behind you, man. The last test only had a few people there, right? Because it was the makeup test, man, dude. I started not understanding what was happening to me. So Lucas had never been there asking me for answers, until today. When I walk through the living room, I feel that chill on the back of my neck and hear a distant whisper and...
Jonas, help me out, man. I can't stay here forever.
Is Jonas going crazy? And does this Lucas even exist, or this young guy really? It was someone who studied at that school many decades ago. And he took so long to finish his test that he ended up dying. And now he's looking for answers from other students so he can finish his test and get out of the classroom. Go back to his home and his family. Hello, my name is Mateus Gonçalves. You know that story about the father who went out to buy cigarettes and never came back? Well, it happened to me, but it wasn't my father. It was my grandfather. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was about 7 years old and I saw when he left to buy some things at the grocery store here in the neighborhood. It was about 2 blocks away from our house. But what usually took about 20 minutes ended up taking longer than that. At first, I thought he had run into a friend or someone he knew out on the street, right? And that they stayed there talking, catching up. Or maybe he went to take care of something at the bank. You know how it is, right? Those huge lines take up a lot of a person's time. But after a whole day and he still didn't come back, my mom and dad went looking for him and couldn't find him. They drove around the city and there was no sign of the old man. He doesn't know about me, the phone. They talked to the police about his disappearance. The years went by and the pain kept growing. 10 years went by, man. It was an ordinary morning, sunny, just like any other. My grandfather's absence had already become part of the family's routine, a wound that time couldn't completely heal. But on that day, something happened that shook everything we knew. The sound of dragging footsteps echoed down the sidewalk in front of our house. When I opened the door, I almost dropped my bread. There he was. My grandfather was wearing the same clothes, a gray shirt with coffee stains. From the same day he disappeared, there wasn't a single extra wrinkle on his face. For him, it was as if time had stopped, but for us, a decade had already passed. He stopped on the stairs, frowning, and when he looked at me, his eyes showed suspicion. "Excuse me, young man, does this house still belong to Jorge?" he asked, referring to my father. My breath caught. "Grandpa, it's me, Matthias. Is this some kind of joke? Matthias is just a boy, isn't he?" Around 7 years old. Hearing that was overwhelming. A child's memories of waiting for a grandfather who never returned blended with the shock of suddenly seeing him, intact as if time. "Grandpa, it's really me. I grew up. You've been missing for 10 years. He took a step back, looking at me as if I were a stranger. 10 years, it can't be. I just went to the grocery store. I was gone for what, 10 minutes? You must be confusing me with someone else, and I got the wrong house, right? That must be it." I ran to my parents and told them who was coming back home again after 10 years. My parents couldn't believe what they were seeing. They stood still and pale. When my grandfather saw the two of them, his expression changed to a mix of relief and confusion. "Jorge, Helena, what happened to you? You look older." He widened his eyes, starting to realize that something was wrong. We took my grandfather to the kitchen to have a sip of really cold water, right? Trying to explain what happened, the incident, but he insisted that we had gone crazy. He told it in detail, how he left the house that morning, went to the grocery store, bought a few things, and went straight back home. For him, the day went on as usual. When we mentioned the name of Mr. Nestor, the owner of the grocery store he went to, he was surprised to learn that the man had died. It had already been 7 years. That is, it's impossible. I just talked to him. He even gave me a discount on the sardines. Meanwhile, we observe every detail. He didn't seem to have aged a single day. His clothes were just like before, no sign of wear, as if he had really just left the house. But the question that remained was, what happened during those 10 years? Where was he? The doctors couldn't understand what happened to him. There were no signs of significant aging or illness. It was as if he had been frozen in time. Still, something felt off. During conversations, he mentioned places and people that no one knew, as if part of his memory belonged somewhere else. Another reality. The climax happened the following night. I was in my room, looking through old photo albums, when I heard a sound coming from the hallway. I opened my door and went out. There was my grandfather, standing in front of a mirror, staring at his reflection. I don't understand, Matthias. It feels like I don't belong in this place. Grandma, what's happening? What do you remember, sir? I only remember arriving at the grocery store to buy some things. And then there was a flash in front of my eyes. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and came back here. I don't know what could have happened, but if everything you told me is true, then maybe this isn't really me, right? I don't know what could have happened, but after 3 weeks, my grandfather passed away. It was a shock for the whole family. It was as if he had left us all over again. After 10 years, we finally got to see him. We went to see him again. We were filled with pure joy. And now this. Another blow to our family. I remember at the wake, it seemed like he was much older than he looked. I believe he went through some kind of portal or something like that. And he was left stranded in that temporal void. And when he came back here, all those years that hadn't shown on his body caught up with him and made him age rapidly. That's how it started. That's how it was. That's how it happened. That month, my father and I traveled to Argentina because his sister and nieces lived there. I admit I was excited, but at the same time, a little sad. Because my mom didn't go with us, you know? Because she was afraid of flying, she was scared that thing would fall and kill everyone. She let us go since she won't die if it crashes, right? Yes, I remember, we left on the 8th and returned on the 31st. But during that time, something happened that still makes me wonder if it was all just my imagination. We were staying at my aunt's house, right? And it was really cool to spend time there, except at bedtime, man. Her house had 3 bedrooms, one with a double bed, another with a single bed, and the last one with 2 single beds. My aunt and I slept in the room with those 2 single beds, right? While my father stayed in the room with a single bed. It was early morning and I was still awake. While my aunt and my father were snoring, I was calmly using my phone, lying in bed, until at a certain moment I decided to turn off the device. To try to sleep, right? Since it was already past 2 in the morning. Leo, Augusto, and Grandma, as soon as I closed my eyes, I felt my bed shake a lot, as if an earthquake was happening. But only on the bed, I opened my eyes, scared. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, but there was nothing. Even so, I decided to try to sleep again, even though I was sweating cold, right? Very safe. And it was at that moment, as soon as I closed my eyes again, that I felt someone sit on my bed. I jumped up terrified, turned on the flashlight, but there was no one there. Absolutely empty. But after that, I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in there for about 10 minutes trying to calm down. I was only able to sleep around 7 in the morning when I was already exhausted. On the day we were going back to Brazil, while we were at the airport, I remembered that my aunt was a widow. Maybe, who knows, it could have been her husband's spirit. What if the spirit was there, sat down and lay down to be close to her, right? And I was in their way. All I know is that when I got home, I thanked God a lot for being back, and I hope I never go back to Argentina. And that was it, Leo, Augusto, and Grandma. Hello, Leo, I'm Caio. I have a creepy story to tell you from school. I'll never forget that day. It was supposed to be just another normal recess at school. The guys on the bench, boys playing soccer, girls gossiping, and that same group by the arm wrestling table. But it was on that day that I saw something that never left my mind. His name was Samuel. He was the strangest boy in our class. Not because he was weird or anything like that, but because of his arm. His right one, to be more specific, was disproportionate, man, to say the least. It wasn't just big, it was the kind of thing you look at and feel like something's wrong, as if that arm didn't belong to him. The veins were thick, they looked alive, and the skin had a strange texture. I was never able to describe it properly, but he always wore a loose shirt, so most people just noticed. When he sat at the arm wrestling table and you saw that huge piece, and Samuel loved that. I think it was the only moment when he didn't try to hide his arm. He was unbeatable, man, and everyone loved to cheer for him. Until Felipe showed up. Felipe was the new kid at school, kinda cocky, you know? It seemed like he was going to be the new little bully at school. He had only arrived a few weeks ago, and he already thought he was the king of the place. On recess day, he saw Samuel at that table and suddenly started laughing. "What's that crap on your arm, weirdo?" Samuel didn't answer. He just gave that nervous little smile of his and put his elbow on the table. That was his way of saying, "If you want to talk, come play." Felipe laughed again and sat down. I was there, right in front, watching everything, man.
The brute is going to crush him, I'm sure. I bet my grilled cheese that he's going to lose.
They held hands, and I swear, I saw Samuel's arm move even before the referee at the table gave the signal. It wasn't him moving his arm, you know? It was like the arm was anxious. When the match started, Felipe even seemed to be doing well. He strained, leaned forward, bit his lips, but Samuel just looked at him with a little smile. His arm didn't even tremble. Then it happened. When he pressed hard, he heard those dry cracks. Ouch, damn, my arm, Felipe shouted. And his arm, my god, man. His arm was bent, in a way I didn't know was possible. The bone came out through the skin and the blood started to drip onto the table. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was Samuel. His arm changed, the veins were bulging, and it looked like his arm was bigger. Man, it was more swollen. I swear on everything that's sacred. I saw that arm pulsing like it was alive. Samuel was looking at his arm with wide eyes. He looked just as scared as we were, man. But he wouldn't let go of Felipe's hand. It was like his arm didn't want to let go. Like, he wants to get out of there, but his arm is stuck. That's crazy. That's when I realized, man, it wasn't a normal arm. It was something else. Something not his, with a will of its own. The teacher came running, screaming, and finally, Samuel let go of Felipe. He ran out of the court, holding his arm with his other hand. No one was able to stop him. Felipe was taken to the hospital, and they said he would need surgery, but no one mentioned Samuel's arm. How do you explain something like that? After that day, he didn't come back to school. Some said his parents took him out of there. After that day, arm wrestling was banned at school to prevent things like that from happening again. Hey man, breaking the other guy's arm. Man, do you think that arm wasn't the kid's, dude? Did he get that in a crossroads deal because it clearly didn't belong to him? You couldn't see any stitching on the shoulder, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if it had been implanted there. Bro, like a Frankenstein, are you crazy? I'll never ever forget that day.
Damn, man, you broke the thing right there. Look.
You messed that guy up. That arm's not natural, is it? What are you on, bro? I dropped episode 2 of Cartoon Cat vs. Siren Head. That fight is still going on, my friends. And we have many other titles over at Leo's store on WhatsApp. Add this number, man, and I'll send you the full list of all of Leo's comics. Alright, Merry Christmas to you all and a Happy New Year. We're in this together. And if you want to send a story to appear in this segment here, just send it to this email, inscritosaleoigmail.com, alright?